Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out. The day of reckoning was last night. Here with me to chop up everything that happened, and there's quite a bit to go through in terms of the developments from the aftermath, is the one and only Dave Coldwell. Dave, will jump straight into all of the action, starting off at the top of the card with Anthony Joshua versus Otto Wallin. This was billed as a tricky fight. A lot of questions were put the way of Anthony Joshua in terms of his mentality, in terms of future fights as well too. When it came down to the actual action in the ring, Anthony Joshua looked like a fighter with ambition to get back to the top and the ambition to go through Otto Wallin.
Yeah, I think firstly, I think everything that Anthony Joshua does on fight week is always going to get analysed and overanalyzed. If he talks and he sticks to his media trained sort of speeches, then people say people give him grief for things like that. If he has a little bit of an edge to him, if he's a bit ruthless, if he's a bit spiteful if he's talking and in his behaviour and his mannerisms, then people say, oh, there's always some sort of angle where people want to predict how the performance is going to go based on his behaviour. I feel a lot of other fighters can be like that as well, but AJ seems to be always overanalyzed. Ultimately, I think what we saw last night, performance-wise, was where Anthony Joshua is at right now. He looks a happy fighter. He looks somebody that's settled in his surroundings, and he looks comfortable in the ring, which I don't think we've seen for a while. The level of comfort of him being in there. He looked confident going in there. He let it flow. He didn't seem to overthink things. Yeah, and I thought it was a really, really good performance from him.
What do you feel when people look at this performance and look at Anthony Joshua as a whole? They want the return of the destructive AJ, the one that went through Klitschko, the one that was throwing loads of combinations. And do you feel that this development of Anthony Joshua right now in the Otto Wallin fight is as close to or a different form of AJ that will have the successes that the people that were looking for the AJ of old once had as well too?
This AJ of old, last night on commentary, was just constantly comparing him to old AJ, and I don't know if it was more or something. I can't remember who it was, but they kept going on about this combination puncher. It's all right being that combination puncher that he used to be, fighting at the level that he once was fighting at. When you're going up levels and you're fighting good fighters, you don't tend to just stand there with their hands up so you can let go of like 5-6 punch combinations. That doesn't tend to happen. Without something coming back your way or them doing a defensive sort of movement, unless they're actually gone. And they just stood there, waiting to get stopped. And you can get away with throwing hands like that against a lower level. Anthony Joshua, as he's gone up through the levels, you're talking about Klitschko and people like that. Well, as he found out, you step up, the dangers are there, more present, and he got dropped against Klitschko, but he came through it. You never get the old because it's he's developed as a fighter, he's had experience as a fighter, he's fighting better caliber opponents. It's all about the development of Anthony Joshua. I think the experiences that he's had, the losses, the not so great performances. You only go back, was it his last or couple of fights back, he fought Franklin, and everybody, including myself, was like, you were wanting something a little bit more. But when you're coming back after a couple of losses and the pressure that's on you for you, where your career once was to where you are now and where you want to get back to, that can take a little bit of ironing out the creases and not a case of mentality, but confidence wise, it is mentality, but confidence wise, and just being comfortable and perhaps even sometimes just enjoying boxing again. We've seen in the past fighters, there was a lot of talk before. I know he's changed coaches again. Well, if he's changed coach again, then I always think, well, obviously, he's not happy. He's not feeling as though he's getting the best out. He's not gelling. You can have a great coach and a great fighter, and if they don't gel, it's not right. So you do need to move. You do need to change again. And you know what you're going to do. Just you kind of, obviously things don't get ironed out. It's like we're working with Ben and Lee Wiley in the team down there for this fight. That's the first fight. So he will have taken things what they've been doing and their style of coaching, and it's obviously fit really well for him to just to be more comfortable with it. A fighter, if he's comfortable with what he's been doing in camp, you'll kind of see it being expressed in the fight. Not all things will pull off. Not, you know, sometimes it doesn't just go straight on and it's 100%. It's better and better and more comfortable. And you know, I would say that from a first fight point of view, on that night, last night, you can see the potential for that relationship, that working relationship there, to be able to get the best out of Anthony Joshua. Getting the best out of Anthony Joshua doesn't take away the factors, you know, say the weaknesses, but maybe it protects the weaknesses more, which allows him to be a better fighter. It's like, you know, people going about AJ's chin, yeah, but as soon as he, you know, when it was, let's see what happens when he gets it. I understand that 100%, but remember, Vladimir Klitschko, you can there's a blueprint there in the heavyweight division. You don't have to go through the different weight divisions. In the heavyweight division, Vladimir Klitschko was absolutely smashed and splashed, and people saying he's done. Pictures of him on the front cover of Boxing News, sprawling around on the floor. And then he went for about 10 years, absolutely unbeatable in the heavyweight division under Manny Stewart. You know, once everything started gelling with Manny, and Manny knew how to protect his weaknesses and have ability. And if you can find a coach that can do that for you, the future is going to could be better than the past. So in terms of that relationship, and you know, it's the early days. You're fighting a guy that didn't really land anything of note, you know. So we don't know what happens when it starts going wrong again. But early days, and on that performance, I really was happy to see that, because listen, people can say what they want. A winning Anthony Joshua and a successful Team AJ is great for the sport, because look at how the sport's been, how he's carried the sport for a number of years now. The big events, the razzmatazz, you know, just the fighters coming through on the back of him and things like that. So it's good for business. It's good for the boxing business, especially in this country.
In terms of that in-ring action, then, what did AJ do so well against Otto Wallin to have that resounding success when others, including the current WBC heavyweight champion, have had so much trouble with that style, that type of fighter?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Wallin, you can't backtrack now. Before the fight, a lot of people were saying that that's a banana skin.
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying. I felt that because obviously the level that Joshua has been fighting at, the experience he got, I felt that he would win the fight. But being honest, I don't think that he would have done it as smooth. It's just, for me, I know it doesn't really translate into an interview, I suppose, but it's just he was smooth in the fight. I like to see fighters fluid and not burning too much energy on each attack. And he was patient. He picked his shots really well. His foot position was good. He actually looked comfortable in there with a southpaw. Now I know Wallin's not the same kind of southpaw as Usyk, but he looked comfortable in there with the southpaw position of Wallin, and you know how he was disguising the right hand and shooting the right hand was great. The jab I thought was nice, and he was just relaxed and in his state of calm and being relaxed in there. You could see he wasn't burning up energy. He wasn't, you know, you can see in fights before, he's firing shots stiff, or maybe that's because you overthink things, but he just looked comfortable in what he knew he had to do. And he was very smooth. He was picking his shots really well. He was making Wallin overthink himself, and he never allowed him to get a foothold in the fight at all. Never allowed it, and that was very, very impressive because we've seen that Wallin's, given Fury fits, give him a really, really tough fight. He beat, listen, the Gassiev fight, and I'm not saying it after the fight, I said it before the fight. Gassiev was very, very good as a cruiserweight. He's not done anything as a heavyweight, So that, I don't buy into that. It's the fact that it was always for me about how is Anthony Joshua going to look in the fight. I expect him to win, but how is he going to look in the fight? And I thought it was fantastic. I'm over the moon for him.
Do you feel the partnership with Ben Davison and the team there extends further than this fight was billed as just being temporary and potentially returning back to Derek James?
I never saw that, this temporary thing and back to Derek James. That was a weird setup. I just feel as though he's maybe perhaps got. Listen, nobody knows. We're all guessing, but I just feel as though perhaps while he's over here, before he went to America, he just wanted to go and train. So, all right, his mates probably said, "Why don't you give Ben Davison a go? Good setup, blah blah." Yeah, all right, giving it a go. Felt confident and just thought, "This is a good fit. Let's see how the fight goes." But in his mind, he's comfortable. This is a good fit, and it showed last night that it is a good fit. So yeah, so obviously I see this as a permanent thing.
Just a quick last one before we move topic. I saw in Boxing News, Ben Davison said that they want to right the wrong that happened with Alexander Usyk in the two fights there. Do you feel that what you saw was the start, the embers of maybe if they had the third fight, turning those defeats around?
Maybe it's, again, Usyk's a lot different to Wallin, and again, it's, without getting carried away, it's fantastic last night, but it was all his own way, and it's boxing, and when things aren't going all your own way, how do you react to that, and how do you manage to keep the new things that you're working on? Do you manage to keep implementing them even though things are going through rough patches, and you stick with it, or do you revert back to type? These are questions. I'm not saying he can't beat Usyk, but I'm saying that let's not get carried away. Usyk's going to fight Fury. That's a big enough, hard enough fight for himself. Is the motivation there for Usyk to go in and fight Anthony Joshua, who he's beaten twice? At this stage of Usyk's career, he's had a hard, long old career, had a lot of fights. What's his motivation? He might well think after if he was to beat Fury, then he's like, well, I've done everything. What do I need to do now? And he might retire because he's 36 years old now. He's got a family, made plenty of money in the bank. It's very, very hard. It's easier for the man that's chasing. And if in terms of Usyk, it wouldn't matter if, regardless of belts, in terms of Usyk, AJ is the one that's chasing Usyk because he feels that he wants that redemption, wants to right the wrongs. But when you're the man that's beaten somebody twice, having that same level of motivation to go in there and putting that performance against them again, it's like, really? And if somebody's skinned, you can say, well, we'll pay you a lot of money, but he's not skinned, and he's going to get paid an absolute king's ransom to fight Fury in February.
Now, moving forward, there was the feeling that there would be an upset or two on the cards, and there was the potential that was ramping up from feeling of people in the boxing scene that it could be in Deontay Wilder versus Joe Parker, and that did materialize. Some of the best laid plans for Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder now go up in smoke. Although Deontay Wilder has said that he will be returning to the ring, and AJ said, look, he's still open to the fight with Wilder. But focusing on Joe Parker and his performance, it's a tightrope walk when it comes to Wilder, but maybe it might not have been the versions of Wilder we've seen before in the ring. Not taking too much away from his performance, though.
Yeah, you don't want to take anything away from Parker. And do you know what? Credit to Joseph Parker and kind of guy he is. I saw his press conference afterwards, and he actually said that maybe the inactivity on Wilder's part, and also what Parker and Andy Lee did together, was the main factors in Wilder's downfall, and I think that's a fair comment. You can't say that a year, you know, inactivity at that age, inactivity at a young age is bad. But for fighters as they get older, and they don't want to admit this, but as fighters are getting older, you're 36, 37, 38 years old, when you're inactive, that hurts you a lot more, you know. But Parker, for me, under Andy Lee, is improving so much. His boxing IQ is improving. Well, listen, when you can improve somebody's IQ, they become a better boxer anyway. But he's managing to implement what he wants to do here into his physical being on fight night. And I think the job that, because I always felt as though Parker was somebody that didn't quite trust himself in his big moments earlier on in his career. And I'll revert back to when Derek fought Parker. In that fight, he would give off, and people say but I'm in that corner, I'm watching, I'm seeing mannerisms, and he would give off little alarm bells when Derek could get to him and he'd look uncomfortable, and you always felt as though Derek could make him unravel a little bit, even though he was losing the fight. He always felt as though he could unravel a little bit, but then he'd go back to the corner, and Andy Lee would speak to him, and then he'd come back out, and I always felt, and then when I watched it back, and then I always felt as though Andy Lee has got him, understands his brain waves, how he thinks, and how he can manipulate his brain to a positive effect, where you can see the confidence growing in the man. And then going into this fight, again, it just the way he carried himself in order to carry out what they was wanting him to do. He looked confident from round one. He didn't go in there thinking, this guy's a big puncher, and I need to, you know, it's obvious you need to not get hit, but you can box in that way and just let a fight drift. And I thought he took the fight to Wilder, and Wilder was strange. That was strange for me. I'll be honest with you, the clips over the last couple of years that I've watched, the training clips of Wilder on the pads, on the bags, but on the pads with Malik Scott, and Malik Scott's got a very good boxing brain. So I was really excited to see how that relationship develops as a fighter coach, and to see how Wilder performed, because he'd be sharp with the jab, he's got a left hook on the pads, and you look at him thinking, whoa, hang on a minute, if he's now not just a one-punch man, and I didn't expect him to be Muhammad Ali, but if he's got basic fundamentals using that left hand, and his balance and stability looks there on the pads, it all did. That's why he's a dangerous fighter. So I'm excited to see this version of Wilder. When it came to the fight, I don't understand. He straight on the back foot, and straight away he's shooting this jab out, like toppling over balance, and I'm thinking, what? Wow. So straight away, his legs to me look like the shot. Listen, he's never had great balance, but he just looked worse. He looked terrible. I thought he looked terrible. And the fact that he never really went for it, it's not like Parker was running and he couldn't find him. Parker was there, but he couldn't get the range on the jab, he couldn't get his distance, couldn't forget the right hand. There was nothing there. And then when he did start panicking that last round, start trying to throw, it was just terrible. So yeah, I think obviously we always say it, and anyone can look good on the pads. Anyone can look good on the pads. Fighting's different. But yeah, that was a big, like I said, I've been looking forward to seeing how Wilder developed under Malik Scott there, but he just didn't do anything that you could see that the clips of what they were doing in training. And sometimes that's just the fighter can't do it, and they can't do it. or at 38 years old, you've got to think about the the hammer that he took off of Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
Now, Tyson Fury might not be the biggest puncher in the world, one-punch knockout man, but you're talking a guy that's like 18 to 20 odd stone, whatever he is, landing, thudding shots quite regular throughout the 3 fights. And that was a lot of damage that he took on that. And that last fight, it was like, you know, I may be wrong, but it was like, it reminded me of Riddick Bowe and Amanda Holyfield. I think the third one, where you looked at Holyfield and you saw a man that looked, and Holyfield came back after that, but he looked in that moment as though he had, you know, he was completely shot and, you know, taking too many shots throughout his career. Wilder, just pure bravery in them fights, and pure bravery in that third fight especially. And you know, both of them, again, I'll go, you know, same with Fury, they both left something of themselves in that fight. But Wilder had 3 of them where he took a lot of shots over. And you've got to say, again, as fighters getting older, these fights catch up on you. Again, that sounds really disrespectful to Parker. I'm not being this. Listen, what we've seen times before in the past when Wilder's not, you know, pre-Wilder getting plenty of damage, he'd be getting outboxed and we've always known that Wilder can be outboxed, but he can always turn your lights out at any second. And that's where Parker kept his mentality right, kept focus, kept sticking to what he was meant to be doing, listened, worked well, boxed beautifully, and absolutely controlled. Had Wilder moved around on the back foot, he couldn't generate his power, couldn't generate his leverage, and a brilliant performance from Joseph Parker. And I'm over the moon for him because, you know, I put a tweet out last night. Joseph Parker and the Elite are 2 of the nicest guys in boxing, and to see them have their moment in such a big fight, it's really good to see.
I imagine tomorrow you and your family will be waking up really early, running down to the Christmas tree and wrapping all your presents. And Dave, you'll unwrap all of yours. But you might feel a little bit hollow having not been able to, as a lot of boxing fans will, not been able to unwrap the thoughts of Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder happening now.
This is what irritates the shit out of me about boxing sometimes, is this thing where a fight's red hot and you know it's going to sell and it's going to make big money, but let's leave it a while, make more money. It'll be even bigger. It'll only be even bigger in terms of money. That's it. And when it's already big and you're talking about fighters that have already got plenty of money, you know, it's just, I just feel as though it's ridiculous because you've already got millions in the bank. So do the fight. Great for your legacy. It's the fight that fans want. That's what boxing's about. Make the fight, and if it's all these ring things, and if it's a great fight, you do it again, and the second time you make even more money. And when you don't, you run the risk of a fight not happening. And we've seen it so many times in the past. And now with AJ Wilder, that is the fight that everyone wants to see. AJ Fury is the fight that everyone wants to see. Wilder's done. Even if that fight happens now, the gloss, the whole glamour about it, you would look at that fight now, you look at Wilder and think he's absolutely gone. The value of it's completely gone. And would people still want to see it? Yeah, of course. But it's not the same as what it used to be. It's not the same as what it was prior to last night. You know, prior to last night, that was red hot. I understand that it didn't happen on that show last night because from what I heard is obviously when they started putting this show together, something like 6 weeks together, putting it together in 6 weeks. I understand how they'll probably have thought one of them might not have been ready for that one, or, you know, Wilder's been out for a while, maybe he wanted to fight first. I understand things like that. But they've had plenty of opportunity to do it prior. So it's not just about, oh, it should have been last night and it serves them right because it didn't happen last night. No, it's the amount of time, how many years I've been talking about that fucking fight. Do you know what I mean? And it's a fight that now, that could have been something that's absolutely electric, huge for the sport, because everybody wants to see it. But yeah, it's gone. And that's just, like I said, hopefully, not just promoters, but hopefully fighters will start understanding. They won't, because it's happened before, so I'm talking shit. But in an ideal world, fighters, as well as promoters and management, will understand that when a fight is hot and everybody's talking about it and there's a clamour and you know it's going to be massive, don't be greedy and think, well, let's wait until it's 3 times massive. You know, massive's massive. You know, just get it done and do it. You know, put a rematch. People put in rematch clauses for dog shit fights. So put a rematch clause in for one of these fights where, oh, well, we could have waited, but no, let's do it now. Put a rematch clause in, and then we get 2 fights out of it. And if the first fight is a great fight, second fight is going to be even bigger. There's ways around it. I'd like to see things like that happen.
Should Wilder retire?
I feel right. Yeah, obviously the same sort of thing you see people going, oh, it was never any good. Listen, everybody knew that Wilder wasn't a good boxer. That was never, ever one of his assets. It was throughout his career, it's never been built, promoted, talked about as a great boxer. He's always been talked about some fucker that can turn your lights out at any given second. He's one of the very, very few people in this sport, really throughout history, but especially in the modern sport, that have got that presence about them where you cannot take your eyes off him, because no matter what's happening, he might end the fight at any time throughout those 36 minutes. Yeah. He's that kind of guy. And that is what he's been sold on. And that is what his career's been built on. And you can't discredit him for bringing that excitement to the sport. He's been a great servant, ambassador for the sport in them terms. Even some of his trash talk, even though sometimes it's out of order, but his personality, his charisma, the whole bomb squad, just how he is has always been an asset to the sport, where eyes have come on it. People on the street know about him, you know. So don't discredit all that and the life that he's built for himself through the sport. Listen, remember, he got into boxing because of his daughter.
Yeah.
I think she got cerebral palsy or something like that. I can't remember. But he wanted to provide a life for his daughter. Mate, what a life he's provided, you know, for her and the rest of his kids if he's got more kids. He's really, really made something of his life, and he's given a lot of excitement to boxing fans throughout. That trilogy with Fury is a historic trilogy.
Yeah.
You know, the third fight doesn't get talked about enough for just what an unbelievable shootout that was. It was just, you know, there's no technique involved from either side. It was just an absolute war, you know. And when people cry about fights, you know, fights of this, fights of that, not great fight, that's a truly great fight, you know. So I don't like seeing people just he was never built as a great boxer. So yes, he wasn't the best boxer, but did he bring excitement to the sport? He's one of the most exciting well, for a long, long time. Should he retire? That's down to him. Can he? The interview afterwards, it sounded like a guy that's content, that's happy with what he's done with himself in the sport.
Yeah.
I think that's a dangerous position to be in as a fighter, because especially in that division, in any division, but in that division, because if the hunger and the desire is not quite there, I always feel as though that's the time you should get out. Once a fighter starts questioning, should I retire? Or, you know, I've achieved it, starts looking at the achievements and thinks, yeah, I'm happy with that, then it's quite dangerous. But I don't know. I would like to see him retire, because I wouldn't want to see him just get trashed. You know, I would say retire. But you know, I know he's put out an Instagram post and he said it's not over. So I don't know.
Lastly, to switch the focus to a fight that stole a lot of the spotlight in the fight week build-up, and a lot of questions were put towards Daniel Dubois in terms of his heart, his ability, where he stand, his punch power, and with Jarrell Miller in his face through the fight week and the fight, he answered those questions. He rose to the occasion. Did you feel a little bit of worry watching Dubois coming through those moments of adversity and eventually getting that stoppage in the 10th and final?
Um, First of all, I'm so happy for the kid. I think I've met him once in my life. I've said hello, and that's it. I'm genuinely happy for him because he's one of those guys that his personality or his charisma isn't something that he projects very, very well, or if he's got much until this week. And then he come out with, I was buzzing when he come out with that line at that press conference because of his reaction to his own comment,
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
was so happy about it. It was like a little kid that's just told a joke and to his mum and dad and finds it so funny,
Mm,
and it's the reaction that was even funnier than what he said. So yeah, I think he's really, really put himself where people really took to him this week,
yeah,
and even the weigh-in and what he said at the weigh-in, and I think he's rose to the occasion really, really well. And then the pressure going into that, because everybody obviously, listen, you can't rewrite history, right? He has quit in the past, in Usyk fight. He did fall apart mentally, but this is where the human brain isn't just black and white, right? The first time that happens, it is always the easiest, but it doesn't mean that you are always going to do it again. It's that first time it's happened to you, you're in that position, you don't know how to react to it. I can't take it. Everybody's got a limit. Everybody's got a limit. But it's what can you do with your mind to push through that limit? It's like a kid, when you're doing weights, 100 kilos, the absolute max. That's it, and that's it. You can't go anymore. But then you unlock something in your brain. You have that a little bit of determination, and you can do a bit. You can do a bit more. 105, 110, and you're pushing the boundaries of your brain, not just your body, the boundaries of your brain all the time. Now, in the past, he's not been able to push them boundaries. Last night was where it mattered. Last night was his biggest night. The stage, the show, the event. Somebody was really, really giving him and looking to embarrass him and humiliate him. And it bit down because it was a tough fight all the way through. There wasn't just one or two moments.
mm,
It was a tough, hard fight all the way through. He's giving away virtually £100 in weight. That's a lot of weight to be giving away. When you don't have to necessarily be a big puncher, but when you're £100 heavier than somebody, just your arm punching that's landing on them is going to zap them, take away the strength, their energy, and depending on a fighter, be hurting them. So all the way through the fight, I thought he did really, really well. I thought he gritted his teeth. There was many. You're looking at him. You look at. I'm willing. Dig in, mate. Dig in. And he did. And he can be really, really proud of himself. And you could see that in the interview afterwards. He was dead chuffed with himself. And he was he was absolutely over the moon. I'm really happy for him. Because he's moved past that now. So now he's proven to himself. Forget about proving to us and the rest of the fans. If he's proven to himself that he can bite down, grit his teeth, and go through it. Because what you got to remember is a lot of big guys. It's different for the smaller guys in sparring, because in boxing, because a lot of the big guys, especially if you carry power and you've got range, you've got good, you don't get hit that often in sparring. Maybe the odd one or two, but you're not getting hit with combination. The smaller weights, because there's not much difference in the size, they get to be, and there's not much, there's not a same intimidation factor. And apart from the elite monsters that can really, I imagine everybody that gets in ring to spar with, he shits themselves. But in the main, the smaller guys are more accustomed to taking punches, being uncomfortable in sparring, coming through it, and being able to work the way through it and understanding what to do. The bigger guys who control the sparring the majority of the time, when they start getting it put on them, they're not used to that as much as the other guys. So they have to learn on the job sort of thing. And I feel as though Dubois had that. And then last night he gritted his teeth, and now he knows that when those moments happen again, he knows he can bite down and he knows he can come through it. And I think that's really important for development. He's only a young heavyweight still, and he's got talent and he can punch. And now the confidence factor will go up through the roof, and that belief will go through the roof. And now it's exciting to see, what he can do going forward.
He can be chuffed with the one-liners heading into the fight. He can be chuffed with his performance in the ring too. Dave, I'm wishing you all the best for Christmas and New Year. Although Joshua Wilder won't be under your Christmas tree, I'm sure there'll be a lot more there for you to unwrap tomorrow. But thanks for speaking to Seconds Out. Much appreciated.
Thanks, mate, and thanks for everything through the year. I just want to say to all the boxing fans out there, keep supporting the sport. When it's right, it is the best sport in the business. And from a personal point of view, from all my fighters, I appreciate all the support that we've had. Have a good Christmas.
You too.
Cheers,
Thanks,
mate.
Dave.